What's up, friends? I hope you're doing super amazing. Thank you so much for signing up for the Wednesday window project that we're going to do shortly. I am just grateful for it. You know, I've been watching the series Wednesday and I was just like, bing, I should make an art piece out of this. And you know what ended up happening? I made like 5 art pieces out of it because I couldn't decide which one I liked better. Now, when I made each one, I did not over measure or try and make it perfect in any way. They all have their quips about them, but I'm just going to run you through what all of my different art projects look like before you get started on yours. So I have 3 to show you, actually 3.5. I first started out by using a Sharpie marker and some watercolor paints. So I made that on this nice little 9x11 piece here. And you can see, actually it's supposed to go like this. It turned out pretty good. So for this project here, I decided I was going to color each individual square a different color just at random. And on the other side, I used some light grays, dark grays, and blacks to create the web on the other side. Now, the next time I did it, I used oil pastels. Check this one. So the oil pastels worked really cool too. Now I made this a full art piece. So I have my light and dark window, but then in the background, I did it opposite. So I did a dark background and a flowery, colorful light background, just so we have those 2 contrasts on each side. Now I used my oil pastel and watercolor paints for this project, and I love how it turned out. The only thing about the water or using the oil pastels is that it's impossible not to make really, really thick lines, which isn't a bad thing, but it gets a little muddled in the middle, but who cares? You can see my lines are definitely not perfect in any way, but it makes a really cool art piece. And I did another one with oil pastel as well. I was testing out all sorts of different things, and I actually just cut this one out, so I thought it'd be really cool as maybe like a window hanger. Where's that middle piece? As a window hanger, I could put it in the window or hang it in my bedroom or hang it in Story's bedroom, more like it, because she's going to be Wednesday for Halloween this year. Now, I have to say that I just finished the project before making this intro for you, and I did it different again for this particular video. So I really wanted to show you all of the different things that you can do with this window project. So we're going to go through, I'm going to show you how to draw the whole thing. You can do pencils, crayons, markers, paints, you name it, pens, whatever you want to choose to do your window in, it's perfectly fine. And you get to choose. Now, for the one that I just completed for this video, I'm going to show you ahead of time because I want you to see the difference right away. So I wanted to get a little bit experimenty with this. And instead of choosing one individual square to fill in, I actually just went in and did a whole multicolor window without using the lines as guidelines. So I just want to show you the difference before you get started on this project yourself. So this is with just tie-dye multicolor, and then this is with choosing each individual window piece, kind of like stained glass, right? So just to give you a little heads up as to what kind of experimenting I'm going to do for the rest of the project. And you get to choose how you want to color yours in. So again, thanks so much for signing up today. I hope you guys have a blast getting through this. And you might want to do it 4 or 5 times too. I don't know. It turns out different every time, so it's kind of fun. Anyways, enjoy. I'll see you soon. Okay, my friends, now it is time to make our spooky window creation. And I just want to remind everybody that this is just for fun, right? So you can see that none of the pictures that I have made yet are perfect by any means. I have wonky lines, some are a little off, some are a little bit offset, some are not centered. You know what? It's just for fun, so it's okay. And you can see that I did it a bunch of times, and still every single time there are elements of it that just aren't super duper perfect, because we're here for a good time, okay? We're not here to be perfectionists. Now, with that said, I have to say, I feel like my favorite result is actually the pastel. But the thing about the pastel, using it for the black lines, is that it's really, really thick, right? So you end up getting this big old black circle in the middle, but it really yields a cool result. Now, the marker yields a cool result too, but it's just, it doesn't have as much artistic vibe as the pastel. Nonetheless, what I'm here to do for you today is to bring you through how to draw this awesome window, and you get to use whatever you want. You get to use pencil, pen, marker, pastel, a mix of things. You could use crayons. You could use so many different things to make this happen. So whatever you have, grab a piece of paper, grab a nice round plate that's going to fit on your paper, and a ruler, because the ruler is definitely going to be very, very handy in this scenario. Now, if you don't have a ruler and you only have a straight board, that will work too. Even if it's a piece of cardboard, something that has a straight line to it, anything that's going to allow you to make straight lines is going to be a win. So grab up the art supplies that you're going to use to actually draw the window on. Take in the inspiration from these two pieces, kind of get an idea of what you would like to make on your window piece, whether it just be a regular background, or maybe you want to bring it to the next level and have your light versus dark versus light versus dark and all that good stuff, okay? So when you come back, we're going to get started by drawing our circle on and all of the lines that it's going to take to make this happen. Okay, so I'm starting with this big old paper plate, and I'm going to try and center it as good as I can. So I'm going to put it in the center, and to draw this window on, I'm going to use a black Sharpie marker today. I also have a pencil on hand if I need to do a tiny little bit of measuring. And I'm going to decide after if I want to retrace it in pastel or just keep the marker look going. So first things first, I like to put a nice firm hand on my paper or on my plate. I'm going to try and get it as centered as possible. And I just take it slow. I'm going to go around the edges. You know, sometimes it doesn't happen all in one go. Maybe you have to do one half, then the other half. That's totally cool. Now my plate was a little wonky, so I have a little wonky spot up there, but I am just going to leave that, so maybe I can fix it up later. Now the hardest part, I have to say, is finding the center of our window. So I'm just going to put this down for a second. I'm going to grab my pencil, and with my ruler, I'm going to try and find the center. Now I can see that the biggest spot on this, on my, oh my goodness, window, on my circle, is about 10 and, let's push it over, just under 10 and a half. So I'm going to make it centered. I'm just going to push it over, and 10 and a half. The middle is 5 1/4. So I'm going to do 5 1/4, and I'm just going to put a little pencil dot right in the middle. Okay. Now I'm going to double check that by doing the same on this side. So we'll see if I can get 10 and a half-ish. Now I can see that I'm not quite center there. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring it down a little bit. And I think this is a little bit more centered here. And like I said, we're not doing anything perfect today. So it's very much just doing the best we can to find that center point. And I do like to use pencil so that I don't have a big dot in the middle, because we're going to be crisscrossing all over the place anyways. My paper is so dirty. Look at this dirty paper that I have here. Oh well, hopefully I can fill it in with some bright colors later. Okay. So with that center, I'm going to start to draw my lines out. So I'm going to re-grab my marker. I'm going to start in the middle and start making lines all the way around. Now, when you're using objects like a marker or a pastel, they have a lot wider of a tip on them. So I don't put it right in the middle of the dot. I kind of put it right under where I want my line to go. That way, when I pull across, it goes right through the dot that I made. Now, if I were to have this right in the middle of the dot, it would probably have gone above the dot because I have such a thick marker here that I need to kind of make up for the space that I'm tracing by just pulling it just a little bit underneath where I want my marker to hit. So just keep that in mind when we're making all of our lines. Now, the good part about not taping our paper down is that we can turn it around. Now, I feel a lot more comfortable going side to side as opposed to up and down. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to put it right underneath of my dot, just, you know, as best as I can. Just like that. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to find the centers and I'm going to start slicing my window into pizza slices. So we actually do this 1, 2, 3, 4 more times, okay? But the same rule applies each time. Now, I don't know exactly where the center is. I just don't. How I figure out what's the centeriest area of my paper is I do continue. So if I wanted to do it straight, again, I would get it to the center and pull it just down a little bit. And I really just eye it up. I try and see if these two pizza slices are relatively the same size, okay? I just kind of adjust my ruler as it goes. If obviously that's not right, so I just try and make them as even as possible, even though I have to let go of it being exactly on point, okay? So I'm just gonna keep doing that right in the center. Check out my pizza slices, see if they're relatively the same size, and just aim to go right over that center dot. And I'm gonna do that. Whoa, I guess I have to do it 4 more times now. So it was actually 6. Okay, so pull it down a little bit and shoo. Again, center, try and get them as even as possible. Down underneath a little bit. And, you know, just eyeing it up, making sure that it's close. I can tell already that I haven't done it perfectly and I don't expect it. So my expectations are very low. The best part about art like this, when we're trying to, you know, make something that looks even or that has even lines or whatever, is that it's very rare that you're going to show it to somebody and they're going to be like, oh, well, I can tell that that line is just a little bit smaller than the other line. We don't have to worry about that. We just want to have some fun doing it. So last one. Okay, so let's go back to the top. So I have everything divided right where they need to be. Some are a little bigger, some are a little smaller, but we just work with what we got. Now, what I want to do here is I want to start by creating this circle in the middle. Now, how do we do that so that it looks like the circle's actually around? So I tried a few different ways to do this. I grabbed a paint container and I tried to get it right on center, but how do you know? How do you know it's right in the middle? You're just throwing it right on top of something you can't see or measure. So what I did is I took my ruler and I just gave myself some guidelines, okay? I put the middle line, so I'm on number 2, it's right in the middle there. And what I did is I just took my pencil and I made a little mark at the 3 and at the 1. And I'm going to do that again this way at the halfway mark. Put a little line on the 3 and the 1. Now, I can basically, you know what I could do? I could do that for all of them. I could, go across, put it on the two, depending on how much time you have and how much patience you have to make this happen. You can make little lines all the way around. One, three. And you know what? You're going to have a little connect the dot so that you can connect all your dots with a nice circle in the middle. You can do it like that. Or what I did, I just put the north and south and east and west. I took my circular object, whatever it is, it could be anything really. I did it a whole bunch of different ways. And what I want to do is try and make sure that it's in the middle of the two here and in the middle of the two north and south, east and west. So you can see I'm getting my head in there. I'm just trying to find the middle the best that I can, which means I need to move it over a little bit, up and down a little bit to make it look pretty even. And then once I get it, I'm just gonna draw my circle around the center. Now the reason why I'm doing this in pencil is because there's a really good chance that it's not going to be in the center. Now mine isn't, but it's pretty close, so I'm gonna roll with it. So you can see where all my lines were, okay? My little notches that I made, and where I put the circle, but I can see I offset it over to the right a little bit, but it looks pretty close, right? So I'm going to stick with it. I don't like to get too particular about things, if you don't know that already. If you don't know me by now, or if you're Wednesday, if you don't woe me by now. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my marker and I'm going to try and follow my circle line the best that I can. There we go. That's it. That's it, and that's all I'm going to use my pencil for, okay? So you can see it's a little off, but that's okay. We're just rolling with it. All right. So now that we have our center, we have all of our pizza lines, I'm going to go back to the top and I'm going to start to create the web that connects this whole window together. Now, the first series of webs that I'm going to create is this top area here. And that's pretty much the biggest area where we're going to swoop. So depending on the size, this is just going to be, mine's about 3/4 of an inch wide here, maybe an inch. Let's get my 3/4 inch brush. Yeah, it's about 3/4 of an inch. However big your circle is, you just kind of gotta go with it. And from this point in the center, I'm gonna start to swoop my drapes all the way around. So starting here, I'm aiming for this one here. And what you want to do is get your hand in a position where it's comfortable. So you can see I was a little uncomfortable on this swoop. So I'm just going to try and make it a little better as I go around, and I'm aiming for that second. So we cross one line and aim for the next corner. Just like a spider web. Okay, back to the top. See, and like, after you get into it, those weird little lines or weird little dips that you make don't even matter anyways. Now, for our next swoop, we're gonna make it about half the size of our first one. So you can see this between here, it's a little bit shorter. So if you were to make a line right in between these swoops here, that's about how big we want to make the next one, okay? So here we go. I'm just going to turn this a little bit so I can get my hands in order. And I'm just going to keep going, and it's going to be a little shorter in width than my last one. Now, to keep my hand steady, I don't use my wrist for this because I don't really trust my wrist to get to that point. It's not long enough. My hand isn't big enough to get from this point to this point, so I don't trust my wrist. I actually move my whole arm when I'm doing this. So, shh. Shh. Okay, back to the top. Now, for our next series of swoopies, we are going to be dipping down a little bit. So check this out. These are pretty, generally really like smooth across, but for this one, we are going to be pulling down a bit, almost like a triangle, but we're just kind of dipping down. So it's got a steep slope to it. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that we're aiming, so I'm going to pull downwards, hit the line, and pull back up. Okay? So they have a little bit more of a spike to it. Now this one's tricky. They're all going to be a little different, so don't worry. But I'm aiming for the line, and then when I hit the line, I start pulling back up. All right. Okay. It's looking pretty cool, right? And none of my lines are even, and it still looks like it's pretty symmetrical. So I'm quite happy with this right now. All right. So now that we have our outside drapes done, we're going to move again towards the center. And we have this kind of octagonal area. I don't know how many sides it has, so it's probably not an octagon. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh no, it is. It's totally an octagon right in the middle here. So what's another version of it that I can see? So these lines that we're doing here, they're straight across and they go all the way around the center. Now, I haven't successfully made it all even yet on any of my pictures. You can see I get a little kind of wonky here. They're a little longer up here, a little shorter here. So this time I'm gonna do my best to make them as even as possible. So you have to choose a length that you want from the outside of your circle to how big you want this octagon area to be outside of it. So I think about probably an inch is a good, so that's about an inch here, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a line straight across that area. So I'm gonna keep turning, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna draw, if you wanna use your ruler, you can, but what I'm aiming for is to get a straight line in between our two pieces here. So if I keep turning, anyways, I'm just gonna do it freehand. It's too hard to do it with a ruler. I'm just gonna try my best to keep these two areas the same size, okay? It's really hard. They tend to get smaller and smaller. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hop over here now. I'm gonna try and keep this as even as possible. It's super hard to do it without measuring. How did I do? Yeah, it's still a little off. So the top part's a little taller and this part's a little shorter. Oh well, what are you gonna do? It's totally fine, okay? So I just tried to make my lines as straight as possible. There's no dips or drips or anything like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to hop on top of each line and we're going to make these drips. So the next area here, we're going to, just like these kind of lines that kind of really drop down, we're going to do that, only we're going to actually hit the line that we just made. So let me show you what I'm talking about. We're going to go up and we're going to hit that line right in the middle and bring it back up. Down, we're going to hit right in the middle, bring it back up. In the middle, up. It's tricky hitting the middle and the line that we just made. There we go. Yay! Man, I have to say, it's looking really symmetrical. I'm very happy. Even if it's not, I'm pretty excited with how it looks. Now we have one last series of swoops that we need to make, okay? We need to get some little cobwebs in the middle of our octagon here, all right? So what I'm gonna do is right in the center, I'm just gonna start right in the middle here. I'm gonna swoop down and up, and I'm gonna finish off There we go. And we have the Wednesday window. Now, what I'm noticing about this version of my window and my other versions is that I actually don't have as much space as I did before. So check it out. I have these really big gaps in between here that I don't really have here. So I'm not sure where I went wrong. Maybe I didn't dip deep enough in the middle. I don't really know. I have all the elements, but this is what happens. So there's a couple things that I could do. I could go off brand and off template and make another swooping line in the middle just to bring these down a little bit, or I can leave it be. Now, because to me right now, it looks more like a star than it does a spider web, I personally am going to make another line. So I'm deciding to go off template, which means I'm going to start back at the top and I'm going to swoop down one more time, which is totally off template. There we go. So that brought it in a little bit more. It gives me more fun places to color in, and it definitely makes it look a little bit more spider webby than it did before. Let's compare. So I feel like had I made my octagon a little bit larger, that probably would have worked. And had I swooped a little bit lower in these areas, that would have worked too. So those are the things that you just kind of roll with when you're having fun. Now finish up whatever template stuff you need to do. And when you come back, I'll show you exactly how I'm going to paint in with some watercolor paints. Amazing work, my friend. Now, because this is a Wednesday inspired piece, It doesn't mean that all the colors have to be perfectly the same. Now, if you go and Google the Wednesday window, you'll see that there are lots of different colors in the window, and there's also really, there's almost like rectangular pieces inside each window. For this piece here, what I did was I just decided on random colors and I filled in random spots at will. Some go together, some don't. I just kind of chose my favorite colors and filled them in. And then on this side, I stuck to some grays and blacks and just filled in random pieces on that side as well. Another way that we can do it is really having fun with our watercolors and choosing a few pieces and just kind of filling in the one side. Now, the hardest part about this is trying to keep all your colors over to the left-hand side without getting the color into the right-hand side. I found it a little bit difficult, so just know that it's okay. And when you're using watercolor paints, which it makes it way harder to get to one side and not let it seep over to the other side, is you can just wipe them off with your napkin after. You don't have to really worry about it. If the color gets in here, we can just cover it with a little bit of gray, or when we retrace, yes, we're going to retrace our creation, we can just figure it out after. Now, what I like to do with my watercolors, I have a little squirt bottle. I'm just going to give all my paints a little squirt, and I'm also going to give this side of my wheel a little squirt, my window, my wheel, whatever you want to call it. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to do it a little bit differently because I am inspired right now, right? I hope you're inspired too. Now, I can't wait to see your version of this window. It's going to be so awesome. What I want to experiment right now is how all of these colors can kind of melt together and be a little bit more free and not follow the lines so much. So this is my way of showing you whatever you choose, it's okay. Whenever I'm actually starting with a watercolor piece like this, I really like starting with the color yellow, because what happens is that our brushes get a little bit mucked up, and then if I decide I want to use yellow later on, inevitably whatever color I use really gets in the yellow and takes over. I don't get that bright yellow quality, okay? So I'm just going to grab a little water with my brush and start inside the yellow paint. I have both my yellows up here, and I'm just going to start to have fun kind of randomly filling in some of the areas with some nice bright yellow paint. Oh, I almost went over. And that's the hardest part, is trying to keep it in the line. So I want to use all sorts of nice different colors in this, so I'm not going to put too much down, but I know that yellow gets eaten quite easily. You can see how wet my page is here too, right? So yellow gets taken over really easily. So if I put a bunch of yellow down, it probably won't affect much in the end. Okay, get over here. Okay, that's a lot of yellow, but we're gonna see, I'm gonna be pretty particular in choosing the colors that I go forward with. I'm gonna grab a little bit of blue. And I'm just gonna start to bring the blue and yellow together just in a few random spots. So what I'm going to get is some green spots. I'm going to get some blue spots. And I want to keep some yellow, so I'm not going to overdo it too much. I'm just going to add a few little pieces of color in without overdoing it. Okay, now because I sprayed my page first, the water that's already on there is kind of seeping into each other. I'm going to grab a little bit of purple, and I'm going to add some of that in there. Now, when I grab my purple and my colors, I'm just kind of tapping around, dragging my brush. I don't want to overdo it. Anytime I feel like I'm losing a color, I'm going to go back in and grab it. Like I was losing a little bit of blue there, so I'm just going to grab a little extra and swish it in. Maybe get a little teal. A little turquoise would be cool. and really have fun just bringing all of the colors together and trying to stick to the left-hand side of this piece. Okay, let's see here. Ooh, pink. Let's get some pink. We all know Enid loves pink, so pink is super rad color to have. And pink and blue mix really well together. Pink and yellow go really well together. Now I'm going to take a little bit of a dry brush and I'm just going to kind of move some of these little pieces of paint around so that some areas get mixed in a little bit and some stay the same. I want to make it look nice and full and colorful without compromising the colors. I really want to see all of the colors in here. I'm going to even grab a little bit of orange, bring it into my yellow over here. I don't want to mix it too much with the blue because it's going to make some brown, but a little orange is nice to mix in with the pink and yellow. And what I want you to do is just follow your heart. Fill in those spaces. And I'm really wanting this to look really tie-dye-y in the end, so I think I'm done it. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to go around just with the little tip of my brush and make sure that all of my areas are all filled in. I don't want to see any white areas left over. I want to make sure that all of my paper is filled up on this side of my page. Now, an inspired thought for you. You could continue this all over on this side of your page, or you could cut it in half and make this side black with a nice colorful area over on this side of your page. Just some ideas, just throwing it out there, okay? Now, I'm going to be very particular about the colors that I'm using on this side. So what makes it really dynamic is that I still have some white areas showing with just a few little gray and black spots. I want to use the same technique that I used over on this side of my window, but I still want to leave some white spaces. I don't want to color it in all gray, okay? So I have a little bit of black over here, and how I can do this is I'm going to start in one area and see how dark it is first. So that's not too dark. I can kind of swoosh that around a little bit. But what I want to still see some vibrant white areas. So anywhere where the gray starts to seep into some spots, I just take a little water and bring it back a little bit. You can always wipe some off with a dry brush to make sure that not all of the areas are getting colored in black. So I like to follow the rhythm of the water when I'm doing this. And what that means is that the water will kind of swoosh to certain areas. When I grab my paintbrush and swoosh it to areas here, it melts and it goes into some spots and it stays away from other spots. Sometimes it uses the marker that's already down there to like hold that color in. And I want to leave a few spots in the center that are still white. I want to see some areas that are still a little white over in the top areas as well. So I have a white area here and here. There's still a little white happening in the middle there. And I can even give this like one last spray just to kind of let some of those blacks and whites seep in. Now I do want them to be a little bit more of some darkness. So I'm going to choose a few areas to get in there and just darken it up a little bit. Now my paint isn't getting really dark, and I'm realizing I think it's because it's actually gray and not black. So I'm going to grab some black. I have another paint palette here that I got at the dollar store. So I'm going to grab some of that black and there we go. Darken up just a couple spots. And that's going to really give the contrast that I want inside of my spider web here, in my window web. Okay, so what I'm going to do from this point on, I'm going to give my piece a little bit of time to dry, and I'm going to see where I'm at with it. Okay, so what I want you to do is just keep filling in the areas that you want to see a little bit darker and which ones you want to see a little bit lighter. I want you to fill in this area full of color, and then when we come back and it's dry, we can see if there's any areas that need a little bit more either darkness, lightness, or just a little bit more work. Okay? So finish that up and we'll see. Friends, so now that my painting is nice and dry, this is time where I can take an assessment. So I feel like I really like the colors over on this side, but my black and white's a little off. Like I have all these really light areas and then I have all these dark areas. It's a little off center. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a little bit more black and fill in this one area right here so that it just brings the composition together a little bit more. And that just means that my eye's drawn around a little bit more. So the dark spots are gonna kind of draw my eye around. So I'm gonna actually darken up just a couple areas over on the dark side, Even the areas that I've already done already, I can darken a few up just to kind of give it that even more contrast than it was before. Now, it's hard to lighten up areas, so I'm glad that I kept a few areas really, really white to just show off all of the different contrasts. So I'm going to leave all the other ones the way they are, but like I said, I'm just going to add a couple areas that are really dark comparatively to the rest of the window. Just like that, just a few spots. Maybe one more. Okay. I'm gonna do this one right here. Cool. Now, guys, that's that. And it looks okay, right? But I'm going to just let those few areas dry again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my marker and I'm going to redraw over this whole thing. When I color over my marker with all of these watercolors, they kind of take down that contrast of the black and we lose some of the black window in there. And retracing my lines is really going to give me the opportunity to make them show up a little bit more and thicken them up a little bit more, especially around the outside edge, so that it really makes it a strong, very, very dynamic piece of art. And it's totally worth the time to get in there and redo it. So that's what I'm going to do. If you choose to as well, then good on you. And I can't wait to see your version of the Wednesday window. So I'm going to speed this up and you can see me retrace this and see how it all comes to life. Perfect. So now that I'm done tracing, you can see that it really came together a lot better after I retraced my lines. Otherwise, they would have been completely lost underneath my watercolor paints. Now, when I do a comparison, and I'm so grateful that you let me show you how I experiment with different colors and different techniques. And when I look back and decide which one I kind of like better, I have to say that I do think I prefer the main colors, like fitting into each one. I feel like it's a lot more vibrant than actually mixing all the colors together. I like how this looks. I don't hate it, but I feel like this one is represented just a little bit better than having all the colors mixed in together. Now, what I want you to do is fill in your background however you want. Maybe you want to do that dark versus light background. So we have some colorful flowers and stuff behind our dark spider webs, and then some dark spider webs behind our colorful palette over here. You can potentially cut out your piece and hang it. You could find a spot to hang it if it's in a window or anything like that. That would be really fun too. And I don't know what I'm going to do with mine yet, with my new piece here. But when I compare them all, let's bring in the three different kinds here. So we have our multicolor window just mixed in with our marker outline here. We have our more distinct multicolor window here with all the colors filling in each space. And then we have our pastel multicolor one as well, which I really, really like. I really like the look of the pastels. I think it's really vibrant. And I can't really decide. I think I have to go with my big one that I like the best, but that's the best part. You get to decide which one you like best. And if you redo these projects a couple times, I'm sure you'll find one that's going to resonate more with you. Well, that was fun, my friend. And I have to say, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and making this art project. I love spooky season, and I hope you do too. And I hope that this just inspired you to know that you can try anything you want. You can use different colors, you can do different mediums, whatever you choose is fantastic. So, from my heart to yours, have the spookiest, most Halloween ever, and I'll see you on the flip side, okay? Bye!